Hello, I'm Kobe Kushner. I'm an analyst here at Red Cloud Securities. We're about to hear from the team at Adyton Resources. This is a company with a portfolio of projects in Papua New Guinea. You know, it's not often I see a 2 million ounce resource in a $2 million market cap company. So I'm personally looking forward to hearing this story. Tim and Rod, you have about 15 minutes, which will follow with 5 minutes of Q&A. Viewers, please feel free to ask your questions at any time and take it away.
Thanks, Kobe. It's Tim Crossley speaking, the Managing Director of Adyton. I'm going to largely let Rod, our Chief Geologist, take you through the presentation. But I guess just by a quick introduction and echoing Kobe's comments, we see our stock price and view it as being incredibly undervalued given the gold inventory and the recent world-class copper intersection that Rod will take you through. If there's any better time to buy cheap stock, it would be now. And with that brief introduction from me, I'll hand over to you, Rod.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, the first slide, I guess, just focuses on our recent drilling on Fenny Island, which is in the northeast part of PNG, as Kobe mentioned. That's where the company's focused. And look, one of the highlights we just had announced at the end of last year was, a massive sulfide copper zone, 6.4 meters at 5.1% copper and 1.6 gram gold. I mean, it's a pretty serious and significant copper gold intersection by anybody's standards, to be honest. And also intriguingly, we've been drilling for sort of a potential copper gold porphyry system there. Copper gold zone, 36 meters at 0.3 copper and 1.1 gram gold. This sits above the massive sulfide zone. So a lot of encouragement. We just drilled a short program here of 5 holes, essentially 4.5 because we pulled the last hole early with the completion of the program. But a lot of upside, a lot of gold potential, and you can see the gold only couple of intersections we had at the bottom there, 146 meters from surface, 0.8 and then 84 at a gram. So a lot of encouragement here, and I'll touch on it a bit more as we go through it. Maybe Tim just sort of step through we can go through it fairly quickly, but look, focused mostly in northeast PNG. PNG is very much land of giants, as I'm sure you're aware, and Fenny in the northeast of the country there, you can see sandwiched between Lahire and the largest gold mines in the world, which is the next island up, and to the southeast, a large porphyry copper at Bougainville or Panguna. So world-class location, world-class jurisdiction. And Ferguson Island, just off the mainland of PNG, is a gold-only project that offers the opportunity to the company for early startup within an 18-month to 2-year timeframe. So these are the 2 projects we focus on. We've got a few other things, the exploration potential, but I'll just focus on Fenny and Ferguson in this talk. Fenny, as mentioned, Lahire to the northwest, Panguna, Bougainville to the southeast, exactly the same setting as Lahire. Hot fluids coming in, basement warping, volcanic setting, and it is a Lahire lookalike, and hence the initial focus on the gold with Fenny. Very much glossed over by historical explorers. But, the copper potential there is very much the kicker and the upside. This is the massive sulfide zone that we had on the first slide. I'll just touch on it a little bit later in terms of what it means in terms of porphyry potential. But you can read it on the presentation. Some pretty decent grades there. Apart from the copper potential, the first few holes all intersected gold, and this is a gold only and very shallow. You can see the first hole we had 145 meters at 0.8 grams gold, and if you look down on the hole on the left, hole 3 was a turnaround hole, had a good gold intersection. This is shallow epithermal gold outcropping at surface, so very much open pittable. And hole 4, where we had the copper intersection, had some pretty chunky gold numbers there, 84 at 1, including 10 at 1.4 and 15 at 1.2. So there's a big gold system with quite a bit of copper within it that offers the upside at Fenny. The whole bunch of prospects we have on the island there, I won't go through them all, but it's been previously 1980s, 1990s work done. bunch of sort of junior explorers doing things, nothing really pulled together properly. And again, that's where the opportunity is to have a fresh look at it. And some of our geophysics modeling shown on the right, this was new remodeling of old data. Essentially showed us in green there, you can see we've got a porphyry target, and that was the focus of some of the drilling. I mean, you can see the presentation, so I won't go through the numbers. The zone itself is about 1.5 kilometers long, southwest to northeast. The orange bullseye there in terms of the geophysics is where some of the drilling was, our first few holes, and we stepped out to the northeast to hole 4, you can see. So the pale yellow intersections are the Adyton drilling, and the historical gold copper intersections are in green, and the historical gold in purple. So as I mentioned, there's a lot around. The existing resource is now 1.5 million ounces at about a gram, and that's an open pittable gold resource. But certainly the deeper potential has never been looked at, and that's been one of the focus of some of our work, culminating in the hole 4 intersection. Touching quickly on the geophysics, we're in a conductive zone shown in purple. You can see the 3 holes we drilled at the southwest end and the 2 going north. And going further north, we go undercover, a younger volcanic cover. Because as I sort of mentioned, Fenny is this sort of volcanic island that's poking above the sea. So going to the northeast, very much untested. So you know, half of the zones had a bit of work done, and half of the 1.5 kilometers had nothing. It's just another drilling on the background of geophysics through the IP that's showing this sort of chargeable zones and the focus of the drilling programs. So clearly some standout targets, and one of the programs I've looked at going forward is extending the coverage of the IP survey and essentially redoing it in portions of the area where previous coverage was lacking or wrong orientation in terms of the deposit. Again, just focusing on the hole 4, and one of the key things here is I mentioned this younger cover, this tephra epiplastics cover you can see in green, and then straight below that you're into mineralization. So it's pretty interesting. And going north, essentially we go undercover to 50 to 60, 70 meters deeper cover, which offers clear upside because there's been no work done here, no drilling's even gone through this zone. So was the other sort of exciting thing in hole 4, apart from the intersection, was the fact that going through this cover was straight into mineralization. As we've talked about on the left in blue and purple, the copper gold intersections, and the gold only on the right. So look, plenty to follow up on at Fenny. The existing model we have, block model showing potential to the north. You can see it essentially stops because there's been no drilling going further north as the topography sort of rises up. Depth and further drilling to the southwest. It's open in all directions across the zone. So the block model shows where the 1.5 million ounces is from. We updated the 43-101s. They were lodged in November for Fenny and also for Ferguson. They're on CEDAR. So essentially all this has been incorporated in the latest releases and reports on the deposit. Ferguson, Fenny offers clear upside and a copper gold potential. Ferguson's gold only, and the main project at Gamada. And the thing here is Ferguson offers the opportunity for early production. So within 18 months to 2 years will be the focus. We drilled 38 holes there, and as Tim mentioned, every hole had gold in it. There was a whole bunch of TSX releases we put out last year, maybe about a dozen, as we stepped through the program. We drilled 3,500 meters, and pretty much every hole was successful. And Gamada is in a good location. It's just off the mainland. Logistics is fairly straightforward in terms of looking to get a production operating going here. Look, I won't step through all this, but this is a long shear zone. It's mineralized. There's a lot of drilling down it. The Adyton holes that there you can see on the left, the ADD holes, almost every one had mineralization. We discovered a new high-grade zone in the center there. A lot of the drilling is very shallow. The average depth would be less than 100 meters of drilling in depth. So the deepest hole we drilled, I think, was 120 meters. So it's shallow, it's outcropping, it's open pittable, and we've been doing some metallurgical test work to sort of advance into a technical study phase. Potential to the southeast to the existing resource of 500,000 ounces. The target would be 1.5 million. And this will be done through exploration to the southeast and along the northeast margin, you can see in red. The current indicated is 150,000 ounces. And the target there would be to say get that to 500,000. That allows a 10-year mine life with a long tail with the inferred resources. So pretty exciting at Ferguson. And the next phase of the drilling would be looking at to both increase indicated and also increase the overall resource and move into a technical study phase. So the next few slides are just some slides through the deposit. You can look at it on the presentation, but essentially it's a lens, a well-mineralized lens, single lens that dips down. The last hole in the program, hole 38, I think had about 9 meters at 3 grams, and holes 36, 31, 34 in blue there you can see is essentially the last bunch of holes that we drilled, all of which had decent gold intersections. I mean, you can read them there, but you've got 12 meters at 4 grams almost in hole 27. So, and this is kind of part of this new discovery we had, and potential at depth to extend. So, there's plenty to focus on going forward. We've done surface trenching to confirm at surface. You can see the numbers there, 60 meters at 1.7. And we just did the trenching at the north end where we'd been drilling at the time. So you can see there. So clearly, the open pit would extend down to the southeast. And I mentioned it, outcropping at surface, so we're very amenable to open pit mining. We updated our block models. You can see there, you can see the grades in red and purple. This has all formed part of the new resources at Ferguson. You can sort of see the orientation of the deposit. Maybe just step through them, Tim. It's just a couple of slides. And look, I mean, I mentioned about 2 kilometers long, the strike extent. The southeast end very lightly drilled, clear upside to increase the resources, which will be the focus of the next drilling program. Again, exploration target down to the southeast. So you can see where our drilling was in the northwest area. Average drill spacing was 40, 50 meters. This is what's gone into the indicated resources, and the work down to the southeast would be the upside. Wapelou is a sister deposit about 30 kilometers away, similar to Gamada, but 200,000 ounces. A bunch of drilling done here, but very shallow. So we drilled 5 holes here, all of which intersected mineralization. There was an announcement to that effect late last year. But the thing here at Wapelou is it offers life beyond Gamada. So if we can get sort of a 10-year time frame at Gamada, the Wapelou deposit would then follow on from that, which was envisaged in the early technical studies, and certainly would be the way to go forward in terms of Gamada then mining at Wapelou. And Wapelou is similar to Gamada, a bunch of early drilling. And you can see there's some of the intersections on the left, and these are all at surface. So you've got 19 meters at 4 grams, for example, under F there. Adyton hole I and J's, 11 at 1.6 and 4 at almost 3 grams. So all the 5 holes we drilled here all had grade as at Gamada. So it's a pretty successful program confirming previous work where the historical data was very sparse. So a successful program right here as well. Just step through this, Tim. It's essentially just showing this thing outcropped at surface. It dips down shallowly. We redid the block models, and that's part of the resources there. Again, this has all been filed in the updated 43-101 report for Ferguson Island that we lodged in November of last year. So just to summarize, the resource position, as we touched on at the start of the presentation, Fenny's 1.5 million ounces, that's at about 1 gram, all essentially outcropping and within the top 150 meters. Ferguson is, or Gamada alone is 500,000 and 200 at Wapelou. So the resource inventory in Adyton would be about 2.2 million ounces at an average grade about 1 gram per ton. But as I mentioned, clear upside at Fenny to increase both grade and pull in some copper, and at Ferguson as well to increase indicated and inferred to a mine plan. So that's kind of the where we sit currently. And I guess the takeaway is that Ferguson is a near-term potential, 18 months to 2 years into production, hopefully. And Fenny is more of a medium term because of the larger target, but certainly pretty prospective and plenty of upside.
Thanks, Rod. Yeah, Kobe, I think we're probably ready to take a few questions. I mean, one of the things that Rod didn't mention around the Ferguson complex is also there's about 2.5 to 1 silver to gold ratio there. And it's not huge, but it's certainly a significant in terms of the silver credits you'd get as well.
Was the silver included in the resource?
No.
So the resource was just copper and gold, but there's a bunch of silver there.
Yeah.
Just gold.
Yeah,
okay.
And the reason for that is that silver wasn't analysed thoroughly in historical drilling, so it's a bit sparse. But where we've drilled it, as Tim said, the ratio is clearly 2.5 to 1. Seems quite consistent, but a lot of, and that's why going back to the original data, historically, the focus was gold and other things weren't assayed for. So, but yeah, so silver is there. It's we actually modelled it, but we didn't quote the number in the resource numbers. Yeah.
And why not copper?
At Fenny, because look, we just really had it. There's been sporadic copper intersections. It's never been pulled together in a coherent ore zone. Yeah, and that's been the focus of our work. So our hole 4, for example, was testing the north end. We had a good intersection, but there's not much around it. Because in terms of, there's been no drilling, and some of the gold holes that were drilled in that area didn't assay for copper. So the feeling was that the copper, so it's really a function of lack of assaying, and lack of drilling.
Bottom line, I think, Kobe, on the copper is we need to drill a few more holes in and around that area to get the understand the extension and the driver of the system.
Okay, so yeah, that's, in my mind, that's free upside that, I didn't even know about, that it was just gold. I see these beautiful copper gold intersections, and I assume that the resource is gold equivalent. So
no, it's gold only.
Yeah. Is there any other metals you're not telling me about here? Is there molybdenum perhaps?
No. But look, I mean, we think we'll have some high sulfide copper species, by the way. So chalcopyrite plus maybe boronite and maybe even chalcocite at Fenny. So to support those grades. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. Huh?
Yeah, for sure. And look, there's a couple elephants in the room that we got to address quickly. So, first off, something happened with the financing that didn't go through, and people want to know what's happening with that. And, there was a management shakeup. Is the future brighter for Adyton right now?
Yeah, I think it absolutely is. I mean, the financing largely didn't go ahead because it probably just didn't have the support of all the shareholders and all the board in the form that it was proposed to go ahead, Kobe. So I mean that was an issue. The major shareholder took some action, and which resulted in a board spill and a change in executive management. Fundamentally, we believe here, and Rod, myself, the new directors who are very significant shareholders, we all have skin in the game. We want to take a pragmatic and considered way forward. We want to complete some fatal flaw analysis, which is some MET test work on Gamma, which actually is actually very encouraging. We need to do a little bit more work around petrographics on Fenny, and then we'll redesign the go forward sort of exploration plan, and also our fundraising requirements match to that. So, I think our focus really will be build out the ounces to well north of a million and approaching 2 million in Gamma. Sorry, not in Gamma, but in Ferguson, that complex. So the Gamma Wapolo complex, and we've also got another tenement on Ferguson Island that's very prospective, with a long-term idea of creating a sort of a hub and spoke model on Ferguson. And then on Fenny, it's clearly a massive opportunity if we can really identify the driver of that gold and copper system there, and particularly build out the gold. What do we have here? We seemingly have a hybrid between a Lahire and a Panguna mine. We're not quite sure, but the opportunity and the neurology and geology is very supportive of something pretty substantial. But it will be a more expensive place to drill, but the size of the prize is a lot higher. And when I say more expensive, it's deeper, it's a little bit hotter in some areas. Whereas Ferguson is it's shallow, it's easy, it's got great access points, it's got more protected water. I think our next phase of focus, and if you think about it long term, maybe the sensible way to go is get Ferguson into cash flow over the next couple of years, as somewhere between a 50 and 100,000 ounce gold mine producing a couple 100,000 ounces of silver, low cost, producing a very simple processing circuit, because you'll just be producing a concentrate to sell on to a processor, and then with those cash flows, look to either find new targets in PNG, or focus on some of our secondary targets, or even back into Fenny, either on our own or with a development partner. So that's sort of how we're thinking about it at the moment. I mean, we do want to raise some money soon, but we just want to make sure that we really understand what we've got, and then we'll go forward with some form of an equity raising. And we know we've got the support of the major shareholder as well, so we don't have to jump into something tomorrow or the next day, and we want to do it. We certainly won't be raising capital at the current share price. It's basically valued at shell value. It's ridiculous. So we need to tidy up the register as well. We need to get some people that care about the company on the register, and then I'm sure we'll see a massive re-rate on the stock price.